you, Daniel. Thank you, Gillian. Good evening, everybody. I'm Johan Zammit, and as Gillian said, tonight I'm going to take you through a set of use cases about blockchain. Let's start off a bit about me. Gillian already mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of Smart Studios. Smart Studios is a venture at the intersection of blockchain, AI, and IoT. At the moment, we're focusing on smart contracts. The company is called Smart Studios because of smart contracts. So we focus on helping organizations use blockchain and smart contracts in their ventures. Apart from Smart Studios, I'm also a visiting lecturer at the University of Malta. I'm a board member in Silicon Valletta. I'm the person, maybe you've heard about Malta Innovation Summit. It happened on the 11th and 12th of October. It's a conference focused primarily only on innovation. How can we think innovatively and how can we act innovatively, both in our personal life and in our business. Last but not least, I'm also the co-founder and the ex-CTO of Netrifer. Enough about me. You can check my LinkedIn if you need more info. Let's start. What are we going to do in the next, depending on how it goes with time. First of all, we're going to, all of us here, we won't leave that door until we understand what is so special about blockchain. That is the most important thing. The second most important thing is how are we using blockchain in science. Before that, I'm also going to take you through a lot of use cases in business, which are nothing to do with Bitcoin, nothing to do with fintech, nothing to do with cryptocurrencies. I'm going to take you through a set of use cases as well. At the end, we're going to then open the floor to any questions that you might have, and then we can have a kind of discussion as well about the use cases that we've seen. So, let's start off. Over the last 30 days or so, Malta hosted two big events. How many of you were at any of these events? Anyone? Yes, there are like 25% of you. These people that attended, have they encountered any interesting use cases? Can anyone tell me if that a use case that remained in their mind, or they were just exhibitors and talks and lawyers and everyone trying to sell you something, but nothing stayed in your mind? Can anyone tell me at least one use case that they remember?
There's a social care, they have a healthcare solution, but they're only in Arizona, where you can use it.
Healthcare solution. It's good that you mentioned that, because the biggest use case that we have tonight is actually related to health. A lot of use cases in science, probably 60% of the use cases in science are related actually to healthcare. So let's start off. This slide I have over the last 12 months I have used and reused. Sometimes I say, oh, maybe now I shouldn't tell people more what is blockchain. They all understood. But then it always shows up as my first slide. So what is the actual definition? The textbook definition. Before we go into practical examples, what is the textbook definition of blockchain? And blockchain, as you can read there, is a distributed ledger. Okay, it has three characteristics. It is transparent, it is immutable, and it is secure. What is this? Before I go into detail, how many of you understand this? Or else we do it vice versa. How many of you don't understand this? Do I need to? Okay, so we're going to explain. So a lot of textbook definitions of blockchain, compare it to a database. Blockchain is not actually a database, but it is related. It is a cousin of it because it is a data store. Yes, we do store the main function of blockchain, the ultimate simplest function of blockchain is to store information. But it is not like any database, like any Excel sheet that you have in your PC or Mac at home. This database, first of all, once you write to it, it is immutable. What you write to it, you cannot erase it. It is transparent because what you write to it, especially if it's a public blockchain, because there are public blockchains and there are blockchains which are not public, permission and permissionless. We'll see a bit later. Everyone can see what you actually have written on it. And the third thing, everything on it is secure, even the data transfer to and from it. I will enforce this definition a bit more later on. So rather than seeing the textbook definition, let's try to understand. If someone had to ask you, please tell me what is so special about blockchain. So let's go a bit back. Last week we celebrated 10 years since blockchain was invented. So this blockchain is a fundamental technology, it's a fundamental invention that was invented 10 years ago. A person or group, someone which we don't know his or her identity, he or she goes under the identity name of Satoshi Nakamoto. On the 30th, if I'm not mistaken, October of 2008 at 6:10 p.m. he sent an email, and attached to it there was the paper which explains the various technologies which make up this blockchain, how it works. Okay? Now, what is so special about it? Why are we making this noise? Why are we making conferences that from all over the world, 8,500 people attend in Malta because of this blockchain? Why? Because for the first time in history, and this is important, before 2008, what you can do with blockchain, and we will see the use cases coming up, you could not do them. So it's not that you are going to say, oh, I might use a database, or I might use blockchain. I might use this secure protocol, or I might use blockchain. What you can do with blockchain, you cannot do with any other technology in the world. Okay? We are going to see with the examples how and why and where to use it, because 90% of what you see out there might not be a good use of blockchain, but where blockchain is used properly, there's no other technology that can replace it. So what have we achieved 10 years ago with the paper of Satoshi Nakamoto? We have achieved two things. First of all, it is the first time that I, as a person, or I, as an organization, can own a digital record. So before I mentioned this, I mentioned Excel sheet or databases. Imagine there is a ledger of a lot of transactions, okay? Even they are written, whatever. And I, in some way or another, I can prove that I, and only I, own that record. Before 2008, we could not do this thing. The second thing is, this record that I own, okay, for the first time in history, I can transfer it to any one of you that I choose, and I do not need a third party. So, as you know, the first use of blockchain was cryptocurrency, okay, money. Let's stick to money. So, I have €5 in my pocket, and I can €5 worth of a value, and I can transfer it to you. I can transfer it to you without using a bank, without using any witness, and you will have full ownership of this without a third party. Now, we're not going into the cryptography and security of how this is done, but through cryptography, through distributed consensus, we're not going into the technicalities, but for the first time in history, that is what we can do. If all the use cases that you'll see, the underpinning value of it is this thing. I own a digital record and I can transfer it. Of course, the first use case was, what are these digital records? The first thing that with Bitcoin 10 years ago is that this digital ledger contained how much each person owned Bitcoin, and they started transferring between them without any bank, without any central bank, without any local or international bank. But this feature then can be used in use cases like we're going to see. Now, another important thing is that, yes, we started from money, but this record somewhere where it says I own that record, we started 10 years ago by it having a financial value. But with time, we noticed that this record can be any other thing. It can be the ownership of a house. I have a record which says Johan owns this house in St. Julian's, and I transfer it to you, and then you have ownership of that record which says that you own the house. It could be a deed, it could be music, it could be art, it could be a scientific discovery, which we're going to see. It could be intellectual property, or even votes. Voting is also something that is a use case for blockchain. So this you see it often. Blockchain brings trust. One thing that I didn't tell you before is that I can transfer this ownership of this record to you, but I never saw you, and when I never saw a person, I naturally do not trust him or her. So I can start doing business with you without knowing you, without trusting you, and there's no issue anymore of trust. This transfer of ownership of a digital record happens trustless. So there is trustless trade, and trustless consensus. What is this trustless consensus? Blockchain works in a way by which all the stakeholders in this network, okay, they actually confirm that the transaction actually happened. They do not trust each other, but yet they confirm that I have ownership of this, you have ownership of that. All of them confirm. That's why I have undisputed ownership, because no one can come and tell me, listen, I think that record is mine, or there's someone else. No, it's actually, that record is actually mine. Now, on top of blockchain, we have something else. On top of blockchain, we have what we call smart contracts. Now, smart contracts, although despite the name, they are not smart and they are not contracts. Okay? But at least keep that in mind. Smart contracts are just small pieces of code that run on the blockchain. So blockchain is the storage part, and smart contracts are the logic that runs on top of the blockchain. And what can we do with these two things, with the blockchain and with the smart contracts on top of them? We can start building applications, we can start automating things that we have around us, and we achieve three things. If you see all the business cases that there are in blockchain, whatever you've seen at Delta Summit or Malta Blockchain Summit or on the internet, they always achieve three things. So when someone asks you, but what are we achieving with this blockchain? So we're achieving that with automation, with the automation of smart contracts, we're achieving less costs. With with the automation, we're also achieving less delays. We're going to see examples of them, but just keep them in mind because this comes all the time. And with the transparency and immutability that I mentioned in the beginning, we are going to achieve less fraud. I will go with the examples. So for now, this is just textbook definitions. We did not go into detail, and we don't have time to go into detail, but in terms of smart contracts, you can think just of a vending machine like the one that there is out here. A smart contract is like a piece of code that is, you actually give it some input and it will automatically, as programmed, execute the logic that it has inside it. So imagine a vending machine. I have a €1 coin. There is a water which costs €1. I put the coin and the water comes out. It's like this vending machine was actually programmed to do that job. And a smart contract is something similar. Behind the smart contract there is the blockchain, and I am interacting with a smart contract, which is a piece of code, and this piece of code has some logic of storing things on the blockchain, retrieving things on the blockchain, moving things on the blockchain. That is what a smart contract is. We'll see how, from the examples, how we're going to use it. Now, use cases. That was quickly, because we don't have time. What is blockchain and what are smart contracts? Use cases, there are a lot, okay? Today, we're going to focus on 5, 6, 7 examples only on science. But let's start by mentioning what are the business use cases of blockchain. So, in use cases, we can divide them usually into 4. There are the parts of automation, okay? There you see notarization, okay? There is the part of digital currency. There is the part of record keeping. Healthcare is one of them. Title record, ownership, voting, intellectual property. And then there's the one part of securities, okay? In terms of today, we're definitely not going to do any cryptocurrencies or any securities. We are touching only smart contracts and record keeping where it applies to science. So we're even going to go deeper than just these two. So here are my top 8 use cases of blockchain outside of cryptocurrencies. Definitely the top number 1 use case is the supply chain. The supply chain is the sequence, the set of steps by which a product is created, is moved through the various distribution, arrives to a shop, is sold, and it's used by the end user. That is the supply chain, and definitely there is a big use of blockchain. There is provenance, registries, healthcare, insurance, voting, credentials, and energy trading. We're not going into these. This presentation, you're going to have it. You can check out my most common, most popular website, and all of them usually have a 2-3 minute video which explains what they are all about. Today we don't have time to go into depth here. If you want, I'll explain some of them in the Q&A. There are others. I'm going to skip this part, but there are others. Car leasing, iGaming, rendering, social media, esports, foreign aid and charity, ride sharing, and they continue. Now they have one thing. All the examples that you've seen there have one thing in common. And this is answered by this important slide. Where is blockchain at its best? So, okay, now we understood that blockchain is this distributed ledger that is transparent, immutable, and secure. But where can it be best use. We said that it's not to replace our Excel sheets, it's not to replace our databases. Where can we use? And if you had to see the use cases there and you try down, they have one thing in common. Blockchain is best used where there are a lot of stakeholders. Okay? These stakeholders want to work with each other or should be working with each other, but they do not trust each other. And at the center of that, blockchain fits perfectly. So where does it fit? Where multiple stakeholders require transparency, security, and immutability, and where is lack of trust between stakeholders. And in brackets, I wrote nowhere else, because there are a lot of examples out there which use blockchain just to replace a database, for example. That is not good use of blockchain. This is an example. I told you that the most common use is supply chain. You have the blockchain, the storage in the middle, and then you have the shipping lines, the authorities, the ports, the banks, the trade association, the shippers. All of them are writing their records in the blockchain. All of them, these records are immutable. So once I say that this container entered the port of Malta, no one can erase that. Everyone all of the stakeholders can see it, and all this information is secure. This is an example, a typical example of supply chain. One thing that I'd like to add here, this is from Maersk, okay? And if you search a bit, the first example that comes up is what Maersk did with IBM. Okay, it is a good use of blockchain. However, 2 weeks ago there was a news where it said IBM and Maersk created a blockchain, and now the other shipping companies and the authorities are not using this blockchain that they created. One thing to keep in mind, that blockchain is not about technology. It's not about creating only the ledger and the smart contracts on top of it. The human element of getting the ecosystem, whether the ecosystem is in health, is in insurance, is in real estate, is in music royalties, whichever your industry is, you need to make sure that this industry comes and starts using the system. Okay? It's not just about technology. 99%, a lot of the cases which you see, they either do not use blockchain in its full potential, or use blockchain wrongly. So blockchain, you should use it only for the type of use cases that I actually showed you. This is a flow diagram where you ask yourself questions and you can decide whether, which probably is you don't need blockchain, and what type of blockchain you use. So that was the introduction. Now we're going into the use cases. The first part, there are two use cases which I want to focus on. One is in health. We mentioned health. Health is the most important. Health sciences are the most important use case of blockchain, and the other one is in research. Science is all about research. It's all about gathering data, processing this data, inferring some knowledge from this data. And blockchain is a perfect use case to disrupt the research ecosystem. I will show you how. So health sciences. Sorry. All right. Quick introduction of this is general. Where can blockchain be used in healthcare? Not necessarily in health sciences. Definitely. The ecosystem of patient, doctor, insurance, pharmaceutical, that ecosystem of medicine being created, medicine arriving to the pharmacist, that is being disrupted by blockchain. It's a perfect use of blockchain. That involves both the drug traceability and the electronic record, which I will show you. We're also going to see, these are very, very important use cases, which the three of them we're going to see. Clinical trials, precision medicine. Precision medicine is where a company is able to create a medicine, a medical product just for you. Precision medicine. Not like we are used to that the product is actually for everyone out there. And we are going to see genomics research and uses of blockchain with related to DNA. Now, this slide is related to the supply chain. I'm not going to spend lots of time with it, but the manufacturer of the medicine puts it in the market in the blockchain. The actual wholesaler does the same. The pharmaceutical does the same, and the patient can see all the way where this drug is coming from. And any drug which is fake drugs, and we have a lot of fake drugs on the global market, they cannot enter this ecosystem because all the real drugs are actually registered on the blockchain. And when even the pharmacist or you go and buy a product, you can know if that product is real or fake, because the real product is registered on the blockchain. The fake product is not registered on the blockchain. Now, this is how the health, at the basis of the health system is through your life and through the various inputs. When you go to the doctor, when you go to the hospital, from your smartwatch, when you're in the ambulance, when you do some checkup, all these records are actually stored into an electronic, into a blockchain, and this is critical. This is critical. I don't have my mobile with me. It's in the bag, but your digital records at the moment, if most of you are Maltese or live in Malta, they are in files all over. There are files of you in Mater Dei. There are probably some files at your local polyclinic. This, once we insert the records on the blockchain, and this, believe me, probably will take 10 or 20 years, but when this actually happens, you will become the owner of your medical records and no one else. What happens from then on is that whenever a doctor or anyone in the medical sphere would like to use your medical records, wants to know anything about you, you are going to receive a consent request, and you're going to say yes or no. You can actually start giving away your health records to pharmaceuticals for research, or to the University of Malta for research, but it's you, because your health records are stored in the blockchain, and you own those records, and no one else owns those records. And then we can go a step further. This is an application, really cool. It's called doc.ai, where apart from what I told you, that there is a record, you can actually start gathering more and more information about you. This information is loaded into artificial intelligence and machine learning models. The system starts learning more about you, starts learning from other people, and can start suggesting things in the medical sphere. It's doc.ai. You can go check it out. So that was the first one. The second use case is clinical trials. This is super important. For a drug, for a medicine to arrive from its first inception to arrive at your local pharmacist, it takes 12 years here, it says. And the pharmaceutical company spends 359 million on average. 10% of the drugs make it. Okay, there are lots of very fascinating statistics which are not actually very nice when you see that we take 12 years from inception to and the way we can speed it up is by having our health records. We can decide to actually make them part of the research. We as patients allow a trial sponsor to use our data, so we donate our data, and they help us back by giving us the results of the trial faster. So, for example, you have a rare disease, and you would like to obviously try to find a cure for it. So you, with others, give consent. So that sometimes it can be personal data, sometimes it can be anonymized data, but you can actually give your profile so that the time for clinical trials is reduced and you get better results. You can see some examples here. You can, through smart contracts, through automation of smart contracts, you can actually, there is actually faster patient recruitment, there is transparency, there is security, and this reduces also the time for medicine to arrive to the pharmacist. We mentioned smart contracts. I'm going to just spend 10 seconds on this. Outcome-based contract. This is an old advert which says, I'm going to give you this pill. If it doesn't work, we pay you back. With smart contracts, you can actually buy products, and eventually, if they don't work, the smart contract actually pays you back, part of the automation. But I'm not going to go into this. The third very important use case. You want to stop? The third very important use case is genomics. I am not into the health sphere, and I had to search for definitions of what genomics is all about. So genomics is a branch of molecular biology concerned with the structure, function, evaluation, and mapping of genomes. And what genomes is, this is even more important. A genome is the full set of genetic information that an organism carries in its DNA. Okay, so we're speaking about putting our DNA profile on blockchain. And why would we do that? For those of you that there are 5 main players in the market doing this. Nebula is possibly the one that you will find most information on. The way this works is the following. You can actually your DNA is actually can be stored on the blockchain. You are actually rewarded for putting your DNA on the blockchain, and you have benefits, not only financial, but you also have other benefits which are coming either from the platform itself or from the pharmaceutical company. So in short, the way it works is you do the DNA sequencing with a company. Okay, they give you the sequencing, you own the sequencing. Actually, the tokens you are actually buying a service from them through tokens. the pharmaceutical companies pay the platform and get tokens, and with the tokens they actually buy data from you. Now, what this brings us, this is a human genome database that is created. You can check out geneblockchain.org as an example. This is like the ecosystem with the genomes that are created. So you put your DNA on blockchain. This is provided anonymously to a pharmaceutical company, and the pharmaceutical company uses that to create drugs. You can also, that's why I wrote towards precision medicine, because by having, if you allow them to have your DNA, they can actually create medicine which is targeted exactly towards that DNA. Now, this has both advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage can be, as soon as you have this and the insurance knows that you are prone to cancer or to heart failures, your insurance premium will actually go up. However, on the other side, whenever someone uses your digital record, your DNA, whenever you give consent for your DNA to be used, you are actually going to be paid. So this might balance out. 5 seconds on this. When you die, there are services which you are put in a freezer with the hope that in 40, 50, 60, 100 years you are brought to life, back to life. And this is called cryonics. And where does the blockchain come in? The blockchain come in storing immutably your DNA, and anything that they know about you is stored in the blockchain. The rest is obviously something which we haven't discovered how to do yet. We'll take a break, or up to you. I can continue.
We can round it off and then we go.
Okay. A few more. So that was the health part. Something which is totally different in science. Astronomy is also part of science. And how is blockchain? How are astronomy and blockchain coming together? Here is an example. I have two examples. You can check out spacedecentral.net. What they're doing is they're creating an ecosystem by which the space programs are actually decentralized. So they bring researchers together on blockchain. Everyone is rewarded for the part that he does in the space program. But there is one which is even more interesting, which is what Akon and Hadron are doing. So the Hubble Space Telescope has 100 terabytes, I don't know if it's 100 terabytes per something, but 100 terabytes of images, and they need to actually they need to store these images, and they need to process these images. And the way they do this is they use blockchain, and they use decentralized storage. So the computer power required to process these 100 terabytes of images is achieved by using the idle time of my computer, the idle time of your computer if you consent, and all of us have records on blockchain of how much we are giving to this decentralized storage system, and by me allowing them to use my idle computer time, they actually pay me for the idle time, and they achieve what for them would have been 10 times more expensive. Now, this concept of crowdsourced computer power and image processing at large scale is not only used in astronomy, but it's used, for example, in radiology. You can check out the radiology.com. This presentation I'm going to give it to you, so you will have them. And what they're doing is they're doing a system where instead of the system of a lot of space photos, it's a system where there is storage and processing of radiology. A lot of these projects then on top of this, they include artificial intelligence, so that the system starts learning about the different kinds of in this case radiology images, and can give insights on the input. We'll skip this supply chain, we did it. Livestock sustainability, we can actually skip it. Something different, weather-based smart contracts. So smart contracts, we said that they are not smart and they are not contracts. And actually, smart contracts cannot access the outside world. To access the outside world, they use what we call oracles. Now, one way of getting information to the smart contracts is by having not one or two weather stations, but by having thousands of weather stations, and we can show what the weather is by decentralizing the weather. That is what is happening here. Now, that is what you can look at weather. But the other thing I wanted to tell you about is what Etheresk are doing, which is actually this image is all about. Decentralized automated insurance. So the diagram that you see there. Yes?
I'm interested in, because I'm an advisor there and at the Foundation Council, so I listen very carefully.
Good. So I'll make sure that I promote it correctly. So what Etheresk are doing is the following. Imagine I'm a farmer and I have a field in Wardia, okay, and I want to insure it. I want to insure it against floods. So what I do, I go to the Etheresk website, I actually select the field on Google Maps, and I say, when I will put €1,000 as my insurance premium against this field being against the flooding of this field, which would kill my crops. So what happens is that the smart contract connected to obviously weather stations checks every now and then if the field is flooded, and without going to Etheresk, if the field is flooded, I receive immediately the money without going to the insurance. Etheresk, it's not related to science, but Etheresk has another interesting use of automation, which is late flight insurance. This is being done with Atlas Insurance here in Malta. You can check it out at fdd.etheresk.com, where, for example, tomorrow I'm going to Brussels. I say I'm going to put an insurance premium of €25. If the flight is late by 25 minutes, I will receive 40 euro back. If the flight is late by 1 hour, I will receive 100 euro back. I do not have to go to Atlas Insurance if the flight is back, but I will receive immediately through the smart contract the money which there was there. This is the kind of automation that smart contracts are bringing. There is pollution. Yeah, this is.
Perhaps we can go for questions.